One of the first edits, as they were putting the movie together, they actually just threw this section from Mars in there. And then George Lucas was like, well, why don't we just use that? And John Williams was like, well, let me take that and like run with it. But those moments are very, very close. Now, a little bit about the actual music that inspired the Star Wars music. So Gustav Holst, English composer, who this series, this song Mars, comes from a series called The Planets, which is 7 short pieces, each one for a different planet. This was written more or less, the debut was 1916, so we're in the middle of World War I is going on. Although Mars was completed before the war technically started, but in the late 1800s, early 1900s, there was always some war going on in Europe, pretty much. So some interesting things. So Gustav Holst wanted to join the army and go serve in World War I. He had some health issues and he was barred from doing it, and so he just had to keep teaching music at the schools he was teaching at. And then finally he found, in 1918, as the war was wrapping up, he found a way that he could help, which was going out with this group that was, he ended up being stationed in Greece, where he was helping demobilize troops and kind of like bring them back into the real world from the horrors of what World War I was. But right before he left, basically everyone in the community got together and got him one night at the Queen's Hall with the Queen's Hall Orchestra. Very huge thing. And so he hurried up and finished The Planets, and he debuted it it was an invite only 200 person thing of people in the know, in the industry, other musicians, people who knew that sort of thing. But a lot of the techniques, a lot of the sounds in this were very, very modern and very kind of aggressive. So while he was stationed out in Greece, he gave someone permission to do the official public debut, and that guy wouldn't do the whole piece. He's like, I can't do more than a half an hour of this radically modern stuff because people will riot. And there were a lot of people who hated it when it came out, which is weird because we tend to always kind of group classical music was always classical, but this was kind of very, very progressive in classical music before he got there. Some things that make it progressive, as you'll notice, the song is in 5, which you don't usually have. Most things are in 4 or in 3 or in 6. So it's in 5. Some other interesting things that happened in here is that as you listen to this intro, the string players actually flip their bow upside down and they're hitting the strings with the rhythm that kind of flows through the whole song. So they're hitting the strings with the back of the bow. They get this and obviously Mars, the god of war, he liked to describe, actually, I want to come into this. So he described the planets as a series of mood pictures. And I think that's a good way for those of you who haven't listened to a lot of instrumental music, of how you can think about listening to songs that don't have words, is you think of the mood pictures. So as we listen to a little bit of Mars by Gustav Holst, think of what moods are coming up and what type of mood picture is coming out. We won't do this whole thing, but also this conductor is fun to watch.